Hello everybody and welcome to Matthew Gardens the Globe. I am your host, Matthew Beck, and in today's episode I put together this funky little board because I'm tired of just trying to remember what we're doing. Today's plantisode, it's like an episode, but it's with plants. So, plantisode. Anyway, what are we doing? We're doing the Herbal Kiddie Pool Garden herbs to jars. That's one thing. We're also doing herbal kratky jars, and we'll explain that later. We're going to go with a monster tomato clone number 2. So we're going to set that up and get that going again because that worked out so well. I want to talk a little bit about coffee and in this case the pods as plant food, because I do a lot of plant foods and plants will eat anything. So we're also going to talk about the okra seed fiasco. Kind of a fiasco, but we'll get that going. So you know, this is my motto: planet forwards. So be kind to each other, and welcome to Matthew Gardens the Globe. Okay, so here's the first thing. I picked up these jars, and you can see I use painter's tape, which is easy to come on and off, and I made myself these little basically tags. Okay, here's lemon thyme as an example. And these are little shaker tubes. And this is lemon thyme. Now I process this myself. What you have to do is strip the stems, and there's the stems, away from the leaves. And then what I'm going to do is use a coffee grinder to grind it up, and then I'm going to have seasonings for the kitchen. And this is all homemade, ad hoc, so it's more of a fun type project. So here's an example. This is oregano here, and you can see how many stems are in there. So you're going to have to spend some time. So, you know, while you're sitting on the couch looking at the boob tube, you know, you could be stripping these stems with your fingers and you end up with something like this. So I'm going to pause and then load this up in the grinder, and then we're going to do some grinding, and then we're going to put it up in here. It looks like a lot of material. You'd be surprised at how, once you've powdered it, how much it packs in there, you know. And of course, everybody knows. Hi, Koi. Hi, Charlie. Hi, Try. This stuff came from here, from the Herbal Kiddie Pool Garden, and I cut this a 2 weeks ago, and it's already coming back pretty good. I've got more to cut back there, and what I've decided to do, I was basically drying this on a paper towel on the counter, but it's taken too long. I've got so much material that I've actually gone to a dehydrator. I didn't think I'd ever say this, but I actually went out and got a dehydrator. Because I want seasoning so bad, so I want to populate these jars. And of course we have basil, we have thyme, we have sage, we have 2 types of oregano, and I don't think that's going to make a difference. We have tarragon, and then the spice mix. All a spice mix is like, sometimes they call it Italian seasoning or Spanish seasoning, anyway. And then there's one that has lavender in it, and herbs de Provence or something, you know, fancy like that. All it is the Italian seasoning with a little bit more herbs in it. So we'll do a mix that way, and you know, you never know when I just want a little bit of everybody in there. But today's whole thing is lemon thyme. Kind of cut off the thyme a little bit there. Feet got cut off, but you know, this isn't a perfect system. It's all kind of made up as we go along. And all right, I'm going to cut and load up the coffee maker, and then we'll come back in a second. So here's the lid, and I've put what was in here, most of it anyway. It's not that much. I started off with a lot, but now that it's dry, you know, it's got to be at least a 10-to-1 reduction. All right, I'm going to grind it off camera, and then we'll come back with the final product. And there we have it. And what you find is that pulsing seems to get this done the fastest. If you just leave the button on, it basically doesn't cut very much. And this is kind of a rough chop. And there we go. It's back in the... And remember the makeup brush that I use for getting aphids? Here it is. That's good for cleaning this out, getting most of it out. And I would suggest if you have one of these for grinding coffee, don't use it for doing the herbs. Okay, get one of these exclusively for doing herbs, and that way your herbs aren't going to taste like coffee. It's hard to get all that coffee out of there, but the herbs are pretty easy to get out with a makeup brush. You know, go borrow it from your mom or go steal it from your daughter. You probably have 2 or 3 of these lying around, but cleaning this out with the brush, and I'll do that better later. It's pretty easy to do. And here we go with the jar, lemon thyme. And if you look at the lid, there's the lid, and here is the shaker top. And of course I dropped the shaker top, does that rhyme? And it's brand new, so I've got this silver thing to take out of here. It's basically a brand new jar. That's fun. So I'll take that silver thing out later. When you go to do this, it's nice to have a funnel. Okay, again, the funnel you're gonna use to get this in here. Of course, you can't have pieces that are bigger than the size of the funnel. So anything that sticks in that mouth, the funnel part of the funnel, is probably not anything that you want in the jar because it's not going to make it out through the shaker. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to drop it in there off camera, and then we'll come back. There we go. It's in the funnel. Now I'll just kind of give it a little bit of a... It doesn't want to go down for some reason. It's it has to do with amount of humidity. Come on, kids. Something is not jiving with my funnel system. Alright, hold on. I gotta manually manipulate this. Okay, it went down. And now the last touch is to take the makeup brush and just get the last little bit in there. I did that for the coffee grinder. Got about 95, 97% or something like that. And I'll do that for this too. Okay, give me a sec. And there we go. Makeup brush. Of course, this is going to get rinsed or washed. Got some down there in the neck. Okay. I've got knees. After all said and done, the lemon thyme, out of all of that cutting, we got less than half a jar. I mean, we cut off at least half as much as that oregano over there in order to come up with that. So next time you're at the store and you're looking at the herbs and whatnot, you wonder why they're so expensive. This is why. It's a lot of work, and you know, but oh my God, the smell. The smell is so overpowering. You got to take my word for this. This lemon thyme smell is just wonderful. And that's jar number 1 of the Herbal Kiddie Pool Garden. There's the tomatoes. We're gonna get some tomatoes off of this, and maybe we'll dehydrate tomatoes. But basically, the Herbal Kiddie Pool Garden harvest number 2, and now it's in a jar, like a captive lab sample. All right, I'm gonna put on the lid and put it in the rack, and then I'll get over and do some of that off camera, and within a very short time, we're gonna have all of these jars full with the help of makeup brush, herbal grinder, and Mr. Funnel. All right. Next up, we have the Herbal Kratky jars. This is a lot of fun, so stay tuned.